Jun Suan asked Shen Yu if he has been lying to him. OMG, has he found out? Shen Yu was stunned and stared wide-eyed at Jun Suan. His panicked thoughts tried to make sense of when Jun Suan figured it out. It could be that Shen Yu forgot to blow out the candles, or he may have forgotten to cover his intimate parts when they were together. Seriously, how could he not know? Jun Suan drew nearer to Shen Yu, tilting his chin so their eyes met. He asked Shen Yu that if he had not been lying to him, why was he so enamored with him? Shen Yu did not see that coming, and he stared dumbly at Jun Suan, the commander of the north side, as he continued to shower Shen Yu with praises. He wonders out loud if Shen Yu is a fairy. Beautiful beings are bringers of disaster, and Shen Yu has taken his heart. He said this as he embraced Shen Yu. Shen Yu grabbed his arms and leaned his head on Jun Suan's broad chest, hoping to prolong this moment. Their intimate moment was interrupted by Song Qing. Embarrassed by the position they were caught in, Shen Yu abruptly sat up straight and moved to a safe distance from Jun Suan. Shen Yu, I don't think changing your position will make Song Qing forget what he saw. Jun Suan ordered Song Qing to go ahead and tell them what the interruption was for. Song Qing told them that upon hearing of the news of Shen Yu's promotion to side concubine, the princess consort had been making a scene at Li Qing Yard. She threatens to unalive herself if the commander does not come to see her. I feel bad for Dai Ro, but making such threats is not the way to get what you want. Jun Suan excused himself while promising Shen Yu that he would return soon. As Shen Yu watched the commander leave, Shen Yu realized that Jun Suan had a wife he must attend to, and he did not belong to him. As the commander enters the Li Qing Yard, he can hear Dai Ro's tantrums. She has been lamenting over the fact that Shen Yu has been taking so much of the commander's time. A loud crash can be heard as various precious objects are thrown to the floor. Dai Ro screams her woes. The commander has not visited her, and she laments that her life is pointless. She vents her anger at her poor servant, who begs for her to calm down. Dai Ro demanded to know why the commander no longer paid attention to her. She arrives at the conclusion that it must be the vamp who told the commander not to see her. Did she ever consider the fact that he may just not be into her? After 9 concubines, I think you'll get the hint. The other servants bowed as they greeted Jun Suan. Dai Ro rushed towards him instantly, delighted that the lord had finally come to see her. Jun Suan was unimpressed by her hysterics and the mess she made. He criticized her for not behaving gracefully as befitting her station. She shot back that Shen Yu makes her go crazy. She complains that the commander quickly stays by Shen Yu's side whenever Shen Yu is ill, but the commander would not even spare her a moment, no matter how many times Dai Ro sends her servants to invite the commander to come see her. She concluded that the vamp must be preventing her servants from delivering her invitations to the commander. Jun Suan accepted the tea served by one of the servants. He exhaled grumbly in disapproval as he uncovered his cup. He commented that Dai Ro seems to be in good health in spite of the news he received. She faked a cough as she feigned illness. She insists that she was indeed ill. She claims that since Zhilu has been severely punished, she recognized the error of her ways and has since repented. She sought his pity by claiming in between sobs how scared and restless she had been after witnessing Zhilu's punishment. So scared that she could neither sleep nor eat, and she also lost weight. I don't think you can fool anyone with that fake acting. Jun Suan looked at her amused. He does not believe a word she says. If she were repenting, she would not curse at Shen Yu's name. Dai Ro's fake sobbing stopped as she realized her mistake. Jun Suan firmly told her that by insulting Shen Yu, she is by extension insulting Jun Suan. She looked at him adoringly as she proclaimed that she only did all that because she loved him so much. This irritated Jun Suan, and he pushed her away. He criticized her for acting jealous, making him feel ashamed of her. He informed her that her emperor brother agreed to grant Shen Yu the title of nobility and reminded her to behave. He also ordered her to preside over the ceremony. This is more than an insult to Dai Ro, but no amount of begging will change Jun Suan's mind. She stood there, shaking in anger and consumed by the humiliation. In the imperial palace of Dajing, a man, whose features are softly illuminated by the morning sun, sat at his desk as his attendants patiently waited for his orders. His mouth forms the words, Shen Yu. Who is this handsome man, and how does he know Shen Yu? Contender alert. An attendant addresses him by his royal title, asking if they should plan a trip to the North Garrison. The emperor's eyes narrowed contemplatively as he instructed his attendant to keep things simple. He plans to surprise Jun Suan in a week's time. He then handed the attendant a letter for Dai Ro. with instructions to behave herself as she waits his arrival. Dairo excitedly read through the letter she received. She is ecstatic that her emperor brother is coming to visit. She ordered her new maid, Xiaoyao, to call for Shenyu. She was about to call Shenyu a vamp, but decided against it. She plans to keep her head down while she waits for her brother's arrival. As Xiaoyao was about to leave, Dairo decided that it would be better to visit Shenyu in person. She plans to follow her brother's instructions and act as the virtuous, gracious wife of the commander. Let's see how long she will be able to keep up the act. Shenyu nervously stood before the princess consort. Dairo attempted to put Shenyu at ease as she offered him a seat. She claimed that she only came to have a little chat with Shenyu and promptly delved into the reason for her visit. The act did not last long. She revealed that she knew of the mute who lives in Magistrate Shen's mansion. The mute is said to be very beautiful, but is born under an unlucky star, so he is kept away from people. However, the mute disappeared when Magistrate Shen was ordered to give up his daughter's hand in marriage to the commander of the North. It is rumored that the mute took her place. Dread settled on Shenyu's stomach. He grabbed onto his own hand to stop himself from shaking. Knowing that she won this round, Dairo stood up and asked Shenyu if he was the mute. She stepped closer to Shenyu to intimidate him. She intends to put Shenyu in his place. She may not know how Shenyu deceives the commander, but she knows that the commander only favors Shenyu because the commander believes that Shenyu is the magistrate's daughter. She taunted Shenyu further by telling him that if his secrets were exposed, what punishments would the commander inflict on him? Not only on Shenyu, but his kind mother as well. Not the poor mother. Shenyu shivered at the thought. Dairo threw Shenyu to the ground, as she graciously told him that she did not intend to expose him at the moment. However, she expects complete obedience from Shenyu. Shenyu sat on the floor as dread overwhelmed him. Later that day, the commander visited Shenyu as they resumed their teaching session. Shenyu is unable to concentrate as he remembers the princess consort's orders. She wanted him to reject the commander's advances and beg him to visit the leeching yard. Shenyu's lack of concentration perplexed the commander, and he took away the brush that Shenyu had been holding. With great concern, he tells Shenyu to rest if he does not feel well. That's really thoughtful of him. Not wanting to disappoint the commander, Shenyu picked up the brush and started to write. Realizing that Shenyu is not tired, the commander of the North embraced Shenyu from behind and suggested that he be served. He learned from Bian Shishi that Shenyu is close to having a full recovery. This scared Shenyu as he moved away from the commander's embrace. He cowered from the displeased look Jun Suan Shao was shooting at him. Jun Suan Shao is not used to being rejected and attributed Shenyu's attitude to being pampered this whole time. Shenyu stiffened at his reproach, and with trembling hands, he wrote the words he needed to tell the commander. You can tell how hard this is for Shenyu. The written words plead for Jun Suan Shao to visit the leeching yard. Surprised at the rejection, Jun Suan Shao was able to correctly guess that this was the princess consort's doing. Shenyu shook his head to convey that this was his idea. He further wrote on paper how grateful he is for the commander's attention, but people may think that the commander is being seduced and should not stay in Shenyu's room all the time. Jun Suan Shao assured him that it was no one's business who he spends his time with and that he would protect Shenyu from the rumor mongers. Shenyu pointed out that the commander's reputation may be ruined and that he should treat his wife better. Ouch, that would sting. Jun Suan Shao angrily slammed his palm on the desk. He menacingly tells Shenyu that no one can tell him what to do. As the commander of the North, no one has ever rejected him. He always gets what he wants. It was only Shenyu to have had the gall to push him away, but he still favors Shenyu, so he does not want to punish him. He leans towards Shenyu as he incorrectly concludes that Shenyu simply does not want his attention as he has been so rough with him. Shenyu is surprised at this, but is unable to refute the accusation. He lowered his head to not show the oncoming tears as he trembled. Jun Suan Shao stood up as he expressed his disappointment. His words brought Shenyu to tears as he never wanted to disappoint his lord and master. Jun Suan Shao told Shenyu that as he was unwanted, he would not visit Shenyu in the following days until Shenyu repents. Shenyu could not stop the tears from falling as he trembled. In his despair, he pulled out the dive that his mother gave him. He wiped the dive with his sleeve to get rid of the tears. He tried to hold back his tears as he comforted himself with the thought that the commander liked it when he smiled. Oh, you poor dear. Meanwhile, at Leeching Yard, Dairo took her time to get ready. She bathed in fragrant soap and wore her most seductive attire. She lounged seductively on her bench as she waited for the commander to come see her. Only for morning to come, and she was awakened by the calls of her maidservant. I don't know if I should feel pity for her or laugh at her. After all the schemes she did, the commander still did not want her. Her maid, Xiao, fearfully told her that the commander did not come and offered to help her get changed. Dai Ro took out her anger at the pitiful maid, who cowered on the floor weeping. Dai Ro menacingly stood above her as she accused the maid of pitying her. She thinks that the maid cried because the commander did not favor her. No, girl, she cried because you slapped her. Not everything needs to revolve around you. Yet again, Dai Ro blamed Shen Yu. Thinking that Shen Yu did not follow her instructions, Dai Ro ordered Xiao to relay another message to Shen Yu. In her jealousy and shame, Princess Consort forgets her brother's instructions to act as a virtuous, gracious wife for Jun Suan Xiao. She tells Xiao that if Shen Yu wants a peaceful life and his mother to live to her old age, Shen Yu must tell the commander that he does not want to become his concubine and leave the mansion. Shen Yu walked with his head down toward the commander's office. 2 attendants stood in front of the door, and one of them greeted Shen Yu as he got closer. Behind the doors, the commander's angered voice can be heard, as objects being thrown against the doors can be heard from outside. The attendant explained that the commander had been in a bad mood as he slept in his office the whole night. No one was spared from his temper. Even the officials and generals were scolded. He begged for Shen Yu to comfort the commander. Shen Yu looked down in fear, knowing that he was the cause of the commander's ill temper. 2 shy knocks are heard inside the study as Song Qing announces that Shen Yu has come to see him. Still salty from Shen Yu's rejection, Jun Suan Xiao quickly instructed Song Qing to turn Shen Yu away. Being the dramatic ML that he is, Jun Suan Xiao decided that he should not forgive Shen Yu so easily. A servant came to make him tea, and Jun Suan Xiao inquired if Shen Yu went back to his quarters at Showa Yard. When you're mad, but you still care. The attendant told him that Shen Yu was still outside. Although Shen Yu was told of the commander's orders, she still insists on waiting outside of his office. Thinking that Shen Yu must have come to apologize, Jun Suan Xiao ordered the attendant to let Shen Yu in. The door creaks as Shen Yu enters the commander's study. He bowed meekly and kneeled in front of the desk. Jun Suan Xiao is familiar to Shen Yu's antics of prostrating on the floor whenever he asks for his forgiveness. He ordered Shen Yu to come closer and grind the ink for him. Shen Yu staggered to get up, which caught Jun Suan Xiao off guard. He must be holding himself back from helping Shen Yu. Imagine being mad at your partner, but they did something funny or stupid. It's hard to keep a straight face, but for the sake of your pride, you must endure. Jun Suan Xiao coldly asked Shen Yu what he came here for. Shen Yu pulled a piece of paper from his sleeves and carefully laid it out on Jun Suan Xiao's desk. Jun Suan Xiao read the words on the paper as he tried to rein his temper in. The words on the paper convey a plea to resign his decision to take Shen Yu as his concubine. Jun Suan Xiao sat there in silence while Shen Yu waited patiently for his reaction. Jun Suan Xiao finally snapped, breaking the brush he had been holding in one hand in 2. He asked Shen Yu why he would miss out on the chance to be his side concubine. Shen Yu picked up the brush as he wrote on paper that he did not deserve to be the commander's side concubine. He believes that everyone has a predetermined fate, and as Princess Consort, Dai Ro is a better match for the commander. He is already grateful for the attention he gets from the commander. Jun Suan Xiao laughed scornfully at Shen Yu's reason. He grabbed Shen Yu's hand to draw him closer. He concluded that Shen Yu must be getting back at him for something he did wrong. Shen Yu shook his head in denial. The commander asked Shen Yu where he plans to go if he does not become his side concubine. He asked if Shen Yu plans to go back to the Shen's mansion. Shen Yu thinks that he only needs to leave the mansion to assure the princess consort. The commander only cares for Shen Yu, the magistrate's daughter, not the mute slave who took her place. His mother can continue to live a long, comfortable life. Shen Yu admitted to going back to the Shens. The commander mockingly praised Shen Yu's naivety. He whispered in Shen Yu's ear that this mansion was not a place where he could come and go as he pleased. Jun Suan Xiao tells Shen Yu that he has no freedom to decide for himself as the commander owns him. He tells Shen Yu that even if Shen Yu dies, Shen Yu's soul will stay with him in this mansion. Now, that's a creepy thought. He pushed Shen Yu to the side and he told Shen Yu that his decision was final. By tomorrow, Shen Yu will be his side concubine, whether Shen Yu likes it or not. This guy is just so possessive, but I'm kind of happy that Dai Ro's plans are not working. The next day, the attendants stood in procession as they prepared for today's grand event. Shen Yu was pampered and dressed in the most beautiful ceremonial robe. The maid ushered him towards a chair so he could rest while he waited for the ceremony to commence. Song Qing cast a pitying gaze upon Shen Yu and advised him not to proceed with whatever plans he had in mind. Song Qing explained that the commander would bestow the title of side concubine on Shen Yu because he wanted to keep Shen Yu safe. Even if Song Qing was assigned as Shen Yu's personal attendant, he couldn't always be there for Shen Yu. Song Qing has never seen the commander so enamored by anyone. The 9 concubines before Shen Yu all died a tragic death due to the princess consort's cruelty, yet the commander did not care for any of them. Yet, with Shen Yu, he is different. By making Shen Yu his side concubine, he treats Shen Yu as his spouse. This differentiates Shen Yu from the others. When Shen Yu dies, his body will be buried with honor at the Jun's ancestral tomb and will receive the honor of being an ancestor of the Jun family. In ancient China, they enshrine their ancestors and pay their respects. Shen Yu looked down in sadness. He realized that Jun Suan wanted to share his life with Shen Yu. For someone who is a slave, who was never called by name, who has no home to return to, and no relatives to care for him, he feels unworthy of all the blessings the commander wants to bestow upon him. Realizing that he said too much, Song Qing took his leave. Shen Yu looked at himself in the mirror and tried to wipe the tears streaming down his face. Beyond Shishi came to see him and asked why he was crying. He mistook Shen Yu's tears as tears of joy. He tells Shen Yu that today's ceremony will only raise Shen Yu's station to that of a side concubine. He tells Shen Yu that instead of being excited, he should be ashamed. If he's trying to comfort Shen Yu, he's not doing a good job. Beyond Shishi assessed that Shen Yu was weak and useless, but he was able to gain the affection of the commander of the North. He peeled an orange, but before he ate a wedge, he decided to shove it in Shen Yu's mouth. Shen Yu quickly spat the orange to Beyond Shishi's dismay. He tells Shen Yu to not put all his faith in Jun Suan as men are fickle pigs. He tells Shen Yu that with his looks, he deserves to be granted the role of legal wife. I kind of agree. Let's vote for Shen Yu as legal wife. Shen Yu looked at Beyond Shishi with a questioning gaze. Beyond Shishi finally ate an orange wedge and told Shen Yu that the commander was worried that the ceremony would be too tiring for Shen Yu, and asked Beyond Shishi to check on Shen Yu's condition. Concluding that Shen Yu is in good health, he too decided to take his leave while commenting that the orange tastes good. Shen Yu looked at Beyond Shishi's careless gait with jealousy. He thinks to himself how nice it is to live like this. The maid escorted Shen Yu as he traversed the hall. As they enter the courtyard, an attendant announces Shen Yu's presence as he walks closer to Jun Suan. An official announced the ceremony was complete, and that Shen Yu's name was now written on the pedigree of Jun Suan's family. Shen Yu bowed in respect as Jun Suan extended a hand to him. Shen Yu looked at Jun Suan, and as he accepted his hand, he finally came to terms that his promises may be real, that he could live this life as Jun Suan's spouse, in this mansion with the one he adores dearly, that he can finally be happy. The vision of the happy couple was obscured by the rustle of a skirt hastily catching up to the couple. It was the princess consort. Dread sunk into Shen Yu's stomach when he heard the princess consort shout for them to halt. Knowing what was about to come, Shen Yu closed his eyes as the sound of the princess's steps drew nearer. The inevitable has come. The princess consort is not backing down. The princess consort approached the couple. While she insists that she did not come to make trouble, she reveals that Shen Yu has been lying to them both. She claims to reveal who Shen Yu really is. She then ordered her maids to undress Shen Yu. The maids surrounded Shen Yu and tugged at his clothes as Jun Suan looked on. He's not even helping. Shen Yu's being bullied in front of you. Dai Ro mocking told Shen Yu that he shouldn't have left. As Shen Yu can't do it himself, the princess is happy to reveal what Shen Yu truly is. Shen Yu looked back at Jun Suan with pleading eyes. The commander of the North stood coldly as he watched the scene. Shen Yu tried to reach for his lord, but the maids were far too strong for him. They successfully disrobed him of his outer layers when Shen Yu decided to flee. With Shen Yu's weak constitution, he stumbled on the ground and fell, scraping his hand in the process. The maids are relentless as they try to rid Shen Yu of his clothes. Finally, Shen Yu's bare chest is revealed while Shen Yu is pitifully slumped on the ground in shame. Dai Ro did not waste any time in mocking Shen Yu. She invited everyone to have a good look at Shen Yu, who is a disgustingly shameless man who paraded himself as a woman. She pats herself on the back as she boasts that it is she who reveals the vamp's true identity. How shameful it will be to add Shen Yu's name to the pedigree of the Jun family. Jun Suan approached the kneeling Shen Yu. He now realizes why Shen Yu has been rejecting him. At the sound of his voice, Shen Yu cowered in fear and covered his face in shame. He wonders if the commander will crush him himself or if he be too disgusted to dirty his own hands and order someone else to beat him up. The commander reached out to detach Shen Yu's hand from his face. The commander concluded that Dai Ro found out that Shen Yu was a man and had been blackmailing Shen Yu and forced him to reject the commander. The commander chastised Shen Yu for not telling him earlier. Shen Yu thought to himself that there was no way that he would have the courage to tell the commander. Like, how is he going to tell the commander that he's a guy? Would the conversation go like this? Shen Yu, surprise. Jun Suan Shou. What is that? Shen Yu. It's similar to yours, Papa. The commander raised Shen Yu's chin and scolded him for not believing in him. He scolded Shen Yu for not believing that the commander liked him so much and that the commander would protect him. Shen Yu still can't believe his ears. Someone like him can't have such high hopes. Jun Suan Shou asked Shen Yu if he thinks that Jun Suan Shou likes to see him dress as a woman, or if Jun Suan Shou only likes Shen Yu because of his status as the magistrate's daughter. Shen Yu was stunned as he second-guessed himself. What other reason could the commander have to like him? The commander continued on with his monologue. They slept in the same bed and spent a lot of time together. Jun Suan is not a fool to not notice that Shen Yu is a man. So he knew that Shen Yu was a man all along. At least we now know he's not the stupidest ML in the history of BL. He took off his cloak and draped it over Shen Yu's shoulders. Jun Suan Shou carefully lifted Shen Yu up to his feet, as he lamented that Shen Yu may get sick again when he just recovered. Frustrated by the fact that things are not unfolding as she had envisioned, Dai Ro pointed out that not only is Shen Yu a man, he is also a slave and a liar. She demands that the commander punish him for his transgression. Jun Suan Shou countered that Shen Yu told no lies. He then told Dai Ro that if it were not for her intervention, he would never know why Shen Yu would reject him. Dai Ro attempted to make him see reasons but was cut off by the commander's harsh order to shut up. The commander asked her if she really thinks that she can away with anything without punishment. The commander reminded her that the only reason she got away with her crimes is due to her emperor brother's sake. The emperor is Jun Suan Shou's brother-at-arms and asks Jun Suan Shou to always take good care of his sister. Jun Suan Shou did his best to keep the promise, but he is now at the end of his rope. Dai Ro insisted that she did all that because of her love for Jun Suan Shou. The commander does not want to hear any of her excuses. He ordered the servants to keep the princess consort within the confines of Liqin Yard. He also told the Dai Ro to return with her emperor brother back to the capital. Dai Ro screams for her lord, only for her pleas to land on deaf ears. Another plan was thwarted. No matter how many times Dai Ro screamed for her lord, she could do nothing as she was restrained by the attendants of the mansion. The couple stood at a distance, steamingly looking at each other's eyes. Is this the happy ending? Nah, not yet. Jun Suan Shou held Shen Yu's arms as he made him realize how silly Shen Yu was. He confessed that he did not make Shen Yu his side concubine due to his appearance or status. He chose him because he is who he is. Shen Yu held on to him and leaned his head closer to Jun Suan Shou's chest. He took the commander's hand and used his finger to spell out the words he wanted to ask him. Shen Yu asks if Jun Suan Shou blames him, to which Jun Suan Shou confirms that he does blame Shen Yu's tendency to keep everything to himself. Instead of facing the problem, his solution is to escape. He urged Shen Yu to simply believe in his husband. At the word husband, Shen Yu shyly bowed his head. Shen Yu.x not working. Jun Suan Shou took it as a sign of Shen Yu rejecting him. He asked Shen Yu if he plans to return as his slave to Shen Mansion. Shen Yu shook his head. Jun Suan Shou was relieved that Shen Yu was not leaving and demands that he be compensated for the mess. Shen Yu thought deeply about how he could make it up to the commander. He does not have money or power, and Jun Suan Shou does not lack for anything. So, how can he, a slave, compensate the commander of the North? His mind finally reached the right answer as he flushed. Jun Suan Shou saw the conclusion on Shen Yu's flushed face. He confirmed that what Shen Yu is thinking is the best compensation. He promised that they could discuss the terms of the compensation later. An elderly man approached Jun Suan Shou and asked for his instructions. Jun Suan Shou instructed them to conclude the ceremony and add Shen Yu's title, Concubine Yin, to the pedigree of the Jun family. The officiant was surprised. Having a man as a concubine is unprecedented, and it does not seem proper at all. He cautioned Jun Suan Shou that the commoners might gossip and ruin his reputation. Jun Suan Shou is a man of irrefutable talent and unbending will. He refuses to conform to the norm and has no qualms about being the first to take a man as his side concubine. He does not care for anyone's judgment. The man, revealed to be an uncle of Jun Suan Xian, seems to weep at the desecration of their family's lineage. Jun Suan Xiao paid him no heed and reminded him that he was the head of the Jun family and that the North was under his protection. The ancestors can rise from the dead for all he cares, but they could not stop him from adding Shen Yu's name to the pedigree. The uncle can do nothing but follow Jun Suan Xiao's orders. Jun Suan Xiao brought Shen Yu to the Jun family's ancestral hall. He tells Shen Yu that from now on, Shen Yu is his concubine Yin, and that they will live and die as a couple. Shen Yu couldn't wish for anything better, and he brought himself closer to Jun Suan Xiao. Jun Suan Xiao tucked Shen Yu underneath the coves. Bi-an Shishi entered the room languidly as he asked why he was being called to come here in this freezing weather. He chastised Jun Suan Xiao for treating him like an animal. No matter how much Jun Suan Xiao loves his beautiful concubine Yin, he could be more considerate to the Imperial doctor. Bi-an Shishi thought that he was called out due to a serious injury and was surprised that he almost froze to death due to a small cut on Shen Yu's hand. He tells Jun Suan Xiao that Shen Yu will recover in 3 or 4 days' time and to not worry as Shen Yu simply caught a cold. Blabbermouth that he is, Bi-an Shishi leaned conspiratorially on Shen Yu as he pointed out how he won against Princess Dai Ro without lifting a finger. Not liking how close the Imperial doctor was leaning towards his concubine, Jun Suan Xiao grabbed Bi-an Shishi by the scruff of his neck and dragged him towards the door. Bi-an Shishi realized his mistake and shot back at Jun Suan Xiao for acting like a tiger protecting his prey from other predators. Suits you right, you blabbermouth. Bi-an Shishi lingered at the door with Jun Suan Xiao. Jun Suan Xiao finally returns to Shen Yu's side to tell him that the Imperial doctor advises that he needs rest to get rid of his cold. Jun Suan Xiao told Shen Yu that there was a warm place outside of the mansion. He is not fond of warm places, so he never spent any of his time there, but he concludes that it will be the best place for Shen Yu to recover. It is winter. Snow and frost cover the lands. It is the perfect time to lounge in bed, swaddled by a thick blanket, and do nothing, which is what Shen Yu intended to do to help get rid of his cold. He was surprised when he was lifted off from his bed with his thick blanket wrapped around him like a human burrito. Jun Suan Xiao easily carried him like he weighed nothing as instructed by the servants. He took Shen Yu to the carriage, while servants saw them off. When they arrived at their destination, a group of servants greeted them. Jun Suan Xiao brought Shen Yu to a hot spring. He explains that the hot spring was built by some officials who used to live there, but Jun Suan Xiao never found the need to use it. He never thought that a day would come when he would be able to make use of it. It's a freaking hot spring resort, and he never used it. Shen Yu dipped his hand in the pool, but Jun Suan Xiao fretted over his wound. He offered to take off Shen Yu's shoes for him. Shen Yu leaned back as Jun Suan Xiao stooped down to take off Shen Yu's boots. At the kind gesture, Shen Yu's heart skipped a beat. The sweet moment was broken by Shen Yu's surprise at being tippled at the soles of his feet. He tried to keep his giggles to himself. He lifted Shen Yu and stepped over towards the hot spring. Shen Yu was surprised that the commander would go in with him. Jun Suan Xiao puts Shen Yu down so that he is standing upright in the hot spring. He raised his hand to Shen Yu's face and asked Shen Yu if he still felt the urge to hide from him. Taking advantage of the privacy and the quietness of the place, the two embraced intimately. The hot spring resort did not lack servants to attend to their needs. In spite of the many servants at their disposal, Jun Suan Xiao chose to take care of Shen Yu himself. He told Shen Yu that he ordered suitable clothes to be made for Shen Yu's gender, tailor-fitted to his figure. He presented Shen Yu with a silk robe. By spelling out the words with his fingers on Jun Suan Xiao's palm, Shen Yu asked when was it Jun Suan Xiao figured out that Shen Yu was a man. The commander matter-of-factly told him that it was on their first wedding night. Shen Yu asked why Jun Suan Xiao kept the ruse and did not expose Shen Yu. The commander of the North simply replied that it was an amusingly interesting turn of events. This response extremely annoyed Shen Yu. I feel the same. Shen Yu agonized so many times that it will be the end of him if he found out. I'd be really pissed to learn that ML knew all along. Noticing Shen Yu's annoyance, Jun Suan Xiao embraced him and offered to help Shen Yu with his clothes. He casually pulled on the sash, keeping Shen Yu's modesty, which made Shen Yu scramble off of him in an attempt to keep himself decent. Jun Suan Xiao let out a sigh and patiently waited for Shen Yu to finish getting dressed. Shen Yu finally came out from behind the wall screen and shyly approached Jun Suan Xiao. This is the first time that the commander sees Shen Yu dressed as a man. The commander pulled Shen Yu towards his lap and praised how good Shen Yu looked in his clothes. The commander was about to lean in for a kiss, but Shen Yu stopped him with his hand gestures. He asked the commander if he was better suited in women's or men's clothes. Jun Suan quickly answered that both suit Shen Yu. He told Shen Yu that if he insisted that Jun Suan pick one, Jun Suan would prefer that Shen Yu wear what he finds comfortable, the one that would suit his nature. The clothes are just the first gift. Jun Suan reached for a jade pendant and tied the long string attached to it on Shen Yu's waist. He elaborates that since Yu means jade, it is only suitable that he gift a jade pendant to Shen Yu. The jade pendant would make a luring sound when its bearer would move. Jun Suan sweetly tells Shen Yu that if Shen Yu is lost and can't scream for help, Jun Suan can find him by following the sound of the jade. The two went home to Jun Suan mansion, and they resumed their teaching sessions. On such occasions, Song Qing interrupted them to bring an urgent message from the post. The Emperor Yi is already on his way to the North Garrison and is due to arrive in a day. Jun Suan was surprised that the Emperor is arriving early. He looked at Shen Yu, who was nervous at the thought of the Emperor's visit. A mysterious look reflects on Jun Suan's face as he continues to stare at Shen Yu. I wonder what he's thinking. The lessons between the Lord and concubine carried on until dusk. Shen Yu is a diligent student, and Jun Suan praises him for being a fast learner. He embraced Shen Yu from behind, his chin resting on Shen Yu's shoulder. He took this opportunity to tell Shen Yu that the Emperor would be parading in the North City, and he was duty-bound to accompany the Emperor. This means that he won't be able to spend as much time with Shen Yu. Shen Yu obediently nods his head. He knows that he cannot keep the commander's attention and time all for himself. Jun Suan ordered Shen Yu to stay at Shaohua Yard, and if he needed anything, he must ask Song Qing to get it for him. Ominously, he warned Shen Yu not to leave the confines of his Shaohua Yard. Shen Yu noticed how specific the request was. It reminds him of the time when his mother did not let him out of their little cabin. Noticing that Shen Yu may realize what his intentions are, Jun Suan patted Shen Yu's head and told him not to overthink. The mansion will be guarded well. He explains that as Shen Yu is weak and meek in nature, he worries that someone might see him. Looks like ML is really planning to keep Shen Yu hidden, thinking that the commander is simply worried about him. Shen Yu happily accepts the explanation and nods his head in agreement. Jun Suan further cautioned Shen Yu to let Song Qing take care of any outsiders who may attempt to break in. Is he already expecting that someone might come to see Shen Yu? Changing the subject, Jun Suan pulled Shen Yu closer and asked Shen Yu if he had more to tell him. He wants to hear Shen Yu tell him that he will be greatly missed and hear such sweet words from Shen Yu. Shen Yu was stunned for a moment but quickly reached for a brush so he could communicate in words that he understood his place, but in Shen Yu's world, he had no one but his lord. Jun Suan was pacified by the words written by Shen Yu. However, it is not enough for him as Shen Yu has not told him that he will be missed dearly. He teased Shen Yu further and told him that maybe he should think of a punishment for Shen Yu. He said this while reaching inside Shen Yu's robe. Shen Yu stopped him by writing that Bian Shishi had told them to practice restraint. Yet, the doctor says no hanky-panky. It amused Jun Suan that Shen Yu already knows to use Bian Shishi to reject him. But since he does not want to make Shen Yu ill again, he'll restrain himself. He then told Shen Yu to go to bed early. Shen Yu watched him leave. This new life is so wonderful, and Shen Yu finds himself being afraid to lose. He's never felt this before, and most of all, he's afraid to lose Jun Suan. Outside Shaohua Yard, Jun Suan met up with Song Qing. Song Qing reported that the Emperor would be arriving at noontime in the North City. Jun Suan will be leading the army to open the gates for the Emperor. He orders Song Qing to increase the number of guards around the city and his mansion. They cannot afford any incidents during the Emperor's visit. With a menacing aura, Jun Suan ordered Song Qing to personally guard Shaohua Yard and not let the concubine Yin outside. No one must see the concubine Yin. Taking it a step further, he ordered the demise of anyone who dared come close. Song Qing asked if he should do the same for the princess consort. Jun Suan did not even spare her a second thought, as he told Song Qing to let Dai Ro stay at Liqing Yard. Jun Suan led his army to welcome the Emperor. The Emperor arrived in a procession of strong soldiers and many attendants. When they arrived at the mansion, the parade finally concluded and it was time for the Emperor to step down from his palanquin. Decked in a fur-lined brocade and golden amulets, the Emperor reveals himself. He bemusingly told Jun Suan that he wanted a simple visit, but Jun Suan did not allow that to happen with all the guards he stationed. I don't think you can enter a city without causing a stir when you're emperor. Jun Suan faced him with his head bowed as etiquette dictates. The Emperor Yi was quick to reach for his hand. They've been sword brothers and formality should no longer apply to them. Jun Suan finally stood at ease and addressed the Emperor by his name as he invited him inside his home, a banquet waiting for them. Talented musicians and dancers entertained the Emperor's entourage. The Emperor broached the topic he wanted to discuss with the commander. While he claims to have no intention in interfering with the commander's private affairs, the Emperor asked Jun Suan if he can tolerate his sister longer. If a divorce were to happen, the Emperor would be embarrassed. Jun Suan countered that if the Emperor thinking of him as a true brother, then he would take Dai Ro with him to the capital. The Emperor fondly said that the two always embarrass him. The Emperor treated the matter as if Princess Consort and the commander are children who simply can't get along. Emperor Yi finally mentioned the concubine Yin and expressed his desire to see him. This made Jun Suan pause. He leveled the Emperor with an inscrutable gaze as he informed him that the concubine Yin has a weak constitution and has only recently recovered from a cold. He told the Emperor that the concubine Yin was confined in his yard and was told to stay inside to avoid getting sick again. The Emperor understands that the commander does not wish to show off his beautiful concubine. He wonders what the concubine looked like that someone like the commander of the North would be wary to show him off to others. The Emperor insisted on seeing the concubine Yin so that he could finally understand. Jun Suan saw through the Emperor's manipulative ways and called him out. He reasoned that the Emperor is not interested in men, so there's no way that he'll be attracted to Shen. The Emperor admits that he lost this argument as Jun Suan is far more eloquent than he is, and raises his glass to enjoy his drink. When the banquet ended, Jun Suan took his leave and left the Emperor in the care of his trusted attendants. The Emperor appeared behind the attendants and confirmed that the commander was already gone. He told the attendants that he planned to take a walk alone to sober up and ordered them to not follow him. He is curious about his concubine Yin, whom the commander treats like a treasure. He wonders how beautiful he truly is. His walk finally brought him near Shaohua Yard. As he turns a corner, he realizes that the yard is heavily guarded. Finally, admitting defeat, he turned around to visit his sister instead. A commotion is heard outside Shaohua Yard. A thief attempted to steal from the mansion. It must be some desperate soul for who would steal from the commander's mansion of all places. Dai Ro stood in front of the guards, barking out orders. She sent the guards away to report the matter of the thief to the Lord. She then approached Song Qing and ordered him to catch a mouse in her room. Song Qing tried to reason with her that he was currently on duty. She insisted that she already sought the Lord's help but was directed to Song Qing. She further threatened him for his insubordination and told Song Qing that he would be beheaded if the Emperor saw the mouse. Unable to refute her further, Song Qing followed the Princess Consort back to Liqing Yard. As Dai Ro led Song Qing away, she glanced to her right and urged the man in the shadows to hurry up. A shadowed figure appears. It is the Emperor, impressed that his sister was quick to get rid of all the guards. It appeared that the Emperor bribed the Princess Consort. In exchange of letting him see the concubine Yin, he will bring her along to the 3-day winter hunting. As he entered the Shaohua Yard, he noticed how bleak and shabby the yard is compared to the rest of the mansion. If Jun Suan really cherished his concubine, he would have given him better accommodations. The yard is surrounded by trees, and the Emperor finds it difficult to see clearly inside the yard. His attention was held by a swarm of butterflies in the cold night sky. He wonders to what length Suan will go to in order to hide his concubine Yin. Illuminated by the moon and the butterfly's wing, a beautiful fairy sat in the distance. His skin shines under the light of the moon, and his hair sways in the invisible wind. In his hand, he holds a dice. The Emperor is enthralled by the beauty in front of him. It can only be the concubine Yin. He likens the concubine's beauty to that of a creature that frolics the snow, seducing men to give up their lives. He finally understood why Suan had been acting possessive. He decides that should Shen Yu smile at him as he does now, he is willing to make him his consort, even to turn against God for Shen Yu. Like a moth to a flame, he can't help but come closer. Shen Yu sat barefoot against a barren tree. He raised the dice he received from his mother. He was able to finally engrave the Lord's name on the dice. The process of engraving the name is very meticulous and time-consuming. The task made him realize why one must only engrave the name of their love. He thought about how the commander made him feel safe and at times flustered. He wanted to give this gift to the commander sooner. When he heard a commotion outside, he thought that the commander must have finally come to see him. In his excitement, he ran out before putting his shoes on. Shen Yu's silent contemplation was interrupted by a presence looming behind him. He was caught off guard by a handsome man who appeared behind him. The man's face got very close to his, and Shen Yu quickly shied away. Who is this man, he wonders. He'd remembered that the Lord ordered him to not meet up with outsiders. He must come inside quickly. Shen Yu hid behind the barren tree and quickly walked towards the house. The man asked if he was Shen Yu, to his surprise. How could this man know him? The man tried to placate him with gestures as he expressed that in his flustered state, he only just realized that Shen Yu could not speak. Keeping Shen Yu from leaving, the man further clarified that Shen Yu is the concubine of the commander of the North. He even got closer, which made Shen Yu take a step back. The man realized that Shen Yu did not know who he was, so he took the liberty of introducing himself to Shen Yu. The man is no other than the Emperor of Dajing, Xiao Shiya, and the sworn brother of Jun Suan Xiao. He also insisted that Shen Yu should also call him brother, Oppa. Shen Yu thought to himself that the Emperor could not be bad if he was the commander's sworn brother. The Emperor explained that he got lost and by accident, he found himself in Xiaohua Yard. We all know he's lying. I wonder if he's just curious, or if he's up to no good. Shen Yu found this explanation plausible as the mansion is truly a massive place. Emperor Yi is pleased that Shen Yu does not even doubt him and finds his navy cute and charming. Shen Yu tried to explain by using hand gestures that he wanted to go inside. The Emperor mistook this gesture as an invitation to enter Shen Yu's place. The Emperor walked ahead of Shen Yu, grateful that he is about to enter a warm place. Panicked, Shen Yu pulled at the Emperor's robes to prevent him from advancing further. He can't let another person enter his home. The Emperor teased him, pretending not to understand where Shen Yu wanted him to go. Shen Yu was at a loss as his anxiety heightens. He did not bring a pen and paper and was unable to explain. The Emperor grabbed Shen Yu's hand, commenting that Shen Yu must be cold. He also noticed that Shen Yu was not wearing shoes. Shen gets even more flustered by how casual the Emperor is acting and notices that the Emperor has been staring at his feet for so long. Does the Emperor have a foot fetish? Shen Yu panicked even more and decided to make a run for it. He closed the screen doors abruptly as the Emperor stood outside, wondering if he scared Shen Yu away. The Emperor stood in front of the door and told Shen Yu that Suan Xiao may come later. He asked Shen Yu not to mention that he's been in Xiaohua Yard as the commander is a jealous, possessive person. He explained that Jun Suan Xiao must have hidden Shen Yu to keep him from the eyes of the Emperor, and that he may misunderstand if he learns that the Emperor came to see Shen Yu. Shen Yu need not be told of how jealous the commander is. He has experienced it firsthand. Jun Suan Xiao sat at a bench about to give his verdict on the eunuch who attempted to rob his mansion. He asked why would a eunuch from the Imperial Palace decide to steal from him when the Imperial Palace did not lack treasures. Something does not add up in this situation. The eunuch trembled in fear but gave no explanation. Jun Suan Xiao asked one of his subordinates where Sun Qing was. He was dismayed at hearing that Sun Qing was summoned to the princess consort's place to catch mice. Jun Suan Xiao was finally able to put two and two together. He stood abruptly in anger and headed to Xiaohua Yard. His menacing aura surrounds him as he enters Shen Yu's place. He kept looking around until he was satisfied that there was no other person in Shen Yu's room. Shen Yu wonders why his lord came in the wee hours of the night. Jun Suan Xiao sat at the desk where he conducted his lessons with Shen Yu. He calms himself down as he explains that he just dealt with a thief and decided to come visit. He told Shen Yu of the punishment he inflicted on the thief. The punishment is not light at all. Hearing how the thief was punished, Shen Yu can't help but be afraid. Jun Suan Xiao reached for Shen Yu's hand and asked if someone had been to Xiaohua Yard. Deceptively, Jun Suan Xiao calmly asked Shen Yu if anyone has come to visit Xiaohua Yard. Shen Yu hesitated. His face shows his guilt. He knows that beneath the commander's calm voice, his jealousy is brewing. He was about to tell Jun Suan Xiao about the Emperor's visit, but he remembers that he was ordered not to show himself to outsiders. He does not want to disappoint the commander. His silence irritated the commander. His anger is at its limit. He grabbed Shen Yu, causing him to sit on the commander's lap. The commander held on to Shen Yu, threateningly, and asked him one last time if anyone had been at Xiaohua Yard with Shen Yu. Scared the lord's anger, and the sinking feeling that Shen Yu might lose his affection, Shen Yu made a choice. He shook his head in denial. Jun Suan Xiao was no fool. He knows that someone has been to the yard. He pushed Shen Yu down on the desk, preventing him from escaping. He reminds Shen Yu of his orders that no one else can enter the yard and that he is not allowed to meet with anyone from outside. He is angered that Shen Yu did not take his orders seriously. Shen Yu nodded to confirm that he did take the commander's order to heart. Suan menacingly leaned toward the trembling Shen Yu and asked about the footprints in the snow outside. The commander is angered by the fact that Shen Yu not only listens to his instructions but also goes outside to meet up with another man. His jealous mind creates a scenario of Shen Yu being so excited to see his lover that he goes out barefoot. No, he went out without shoes because Shen Yu thought it was you. On top of it all, Shen Yu also lied to him. Suan tugged at Shen Yu's robes until his chest was exposed. He took liberties with Shen's exposed collar and sunk his teeth into the flesh between Shen Yu's neck and shoulder. Shen Yu shivered in fear. The bite hurts, but he can do nothing to stop Suan. The commander reached below for Shen Yu's sash and ripped it off his waist. Jealousy consumes the commander. He concludes that he must have been unable to satisfy Shen Yu. The commander only left for 2 days, yet Shen Yu immediately latched on to the next man. Shen Yu can't stop shaking. He wanted to tell the commander that none of it was true. The emperor simply got lost and accidentally found his way to Shaohua Yard. He wanted to tell Suan that the footfalls were from Shen Yu trying to prevent the emperor from entering his home. Shen Yu wanted to explain himself, but being mute, he was unable to. He tried to grab hold of the brush so he could write him an explanation. Before he can reach for the writing utensils, his hand is suppressed by Suan. The commander is so blinded by anger that Shen Yu realizes that even if he tries to explain himself, his pleading will only fall on deaf ears. The commander manhandled Shen Yu until he was slumped over the desk as the commander reminded him who he belonged to. Suan made sure that Shen Yu was aware that he couldn't even think of leaving him. As Shen Yu cried, he was forced to endure Suan's possessiveness. This guy has a trigger. He snaps when he's jealous. Poor Shen Yu. In the winter hunting ground, the emperor, the princess consort, and the commander sat atop their horses. The emperor approached Suan and acknowledged that he was late. He explains that Dai Ro was bored at the mansion, and being the nice brother that he is, he invited her to come with them to the winter hunting ground to relax. He jovially tells Duan Xiao that it has been so long since the three of them had a good chat, and this seems to be a good time to catch up for old time's sake. Suan reluctantly agreed. Dai Ro thanked the commander for being so gracious and vouched for her own skill at riding horses, as she's been riding since childhood. She then asked why the concubine Yin did not come with them. Suan side-eyed her and asked why she was looking for Shen Yu. It can't be that Dai Ro is concerned about his well-being. Dai Ro decided to act like the well-mannered, gracious legal wife who endures her husband's vices. She explained that she was worried that the Lord might miss Shen Yu as they would be away for half a month. Her fakeness is annoying. Suan does not buy it and scornfully looked at her. He is aware that the two siblings arranged the distraction last night. He knew that it would be better to keep Shen Yu near him rather than leave him at the mansion. This way, he can promptly act should something happen. An attendant approached Suan to report that Shen Yu had arrived. Shen Yu is surprised that he is allowed to join the commander and the emperor in the winter hunting. The emperor quickly approached Shen Yu, acting as if this was the first time he's learned his name, and promptly apologized for leaving quickly last night. What is he insinuating? This caught Suan's attention as his lips pressed tightly together. Dai Ro looked on with glee. The plan she hatched with her brother is going well. The emperor profusely thanked Shen Yu for taking him in and allowing him to enter Shen Yu's home. Shen Yu was stunned. The emperor is making it all up. And here, I thought he was decent. These two siblings are really irritating. The emperor feigned innocence and dug a deeper hole for Shen Yu. He wonders if Shen Yu did not recognize him. He pretended to be drunk at that time and made it appear as if Shen Yu has a habit of taking in random men to his home. As the conversation progressed, Suan got more and more irritated. Shen Yu cannot speak to defend himself, which the emperor took advantage of. The emperor faced Suan to explain that he was so drunk last night that he got lost and ended up at Shaohua Yard. He'd weave the story of Shen Yu taking him in, but as he was not in the best state, he left abruptly without even thanking Shen Yu for his kindness. Please, someone make him stop talking. Shen Yu panics, but he has no way of refuting the emperor's slandering. He tried to reach out to the commander so he can explain himself, but Suan's jealousy has clouded his head and refused to hear Shen Yu out. In his irritation, He spat that since the two have met, there's no need to introduce them to each other. Dairo decided to add fuel to the fire by making it seem like Shen Yu would drag drunk men into his quarters. The emperor pretended to chastise her, scolding her for making Suan misunderstand. Dairo decided to act innocently as she expressed that she only wanted to thank Shen Yu for helping her brother. I really get annoyed whenever Dairo would act nice. Dairo peeked at the commander. She knows that the seed of distrust has been planted. Shen Yu tried to reach for his lord to explain himself, but it was for naught. The commander does not wish to listen to Shen Yu's side of the story and ordered him to return to the carriage. Once more, he confined Shen Yu to the carriage. Get out of your jealous behind and let Shen Yu explain. Shen Yu watched the lord leave as he stood there on the snowy ground, dejected. Longjusu Mountain is covered in thick layers of snow. It would have been a picturesque sight had it not been for the harsh winds and gloomy sky. But the chill cannot be compared to Jun Suansho's cold heart. It has been 3 days, yet he refused to visit Shen Yu. Apart from the food being delivered regularly, Shen Yu was stuck in the carriage alone with no one to talk to, with nothing to entertain him. While others are enjoying themselves, hunting and running wild on horseback, they would return to camp with their catch and would cook the meat on a bonfire, drink to their heart's content, and enjoy their time. While it is a fun time for all the men at camp, it is not fun at all for Shen Yu. His weak disposition, coupled with being cooped up in this small carriage, did not help with his health. The poison that Zhilu injected in him lingers inside Shen Yu's body. The food is too tough for Shen Yu, and he is unable to digest it properly. The cold seeps through his clothes at night, and he can't help but feel useless. Morning came, and sunlight peered through the windows of the carriage. Shen Yu was woken by the sound of laughter. He sat up to look out the window on where the noise came from and saw the 3 royals, happily conversing with each other. Shen Yu thinks to himself that only the princess consort would be a fitting match for Jun Suanshao. This must be a harmonious relationship between a wedded couple, but in spite of his thoughts, Shen Yu still wants to get close to the commander. Shen Yu's feelings is not the same as the commander of the north. The commander would quickly lose interest and will move on to the next beauty, but Shen Yu's love is pure and infinite. Once he gives his heart, it is not easy for him to take it back. Song Xing is surprised that Shen Yu wanted to step down from the carriage. Shen Yu tried to explain to him using hand gestures that he wanted to learn how to ride a horse. The horse looked surprised. The horse is like, "Why are you pointing at him? I'm just here minding my business." Song Xing quickly shot down this idea. He reasons with Shen Yu that even if he wanted to learn, Longjutsu Mountain is not the best place for beginners due to its rough terrain and steep slopes. Also, the commander ordered Shen Yu to stay in the carriage. Acting like a petulant child, Shen Yu insisted that he wanted to learn now. He finally wore down Song Xing that he gave in. Song Xing shows him a horse that will be suitable for Shen Yu as it is docile and does not run fast. Shen Yu tried to mount the horse, but was quickly thrown off on his behind. Shen Yu is adamant to learn how to ride. He hopes that he can ride beside Jun Suanshao and be allowed to join the hunting party. Jun Suanshao watched Shen Yu and Song Xing continue with their riding lesson. Still angry at Shen Yu, the promptly turned his back at them and proceeded to head on the opposite direction. Shen Yu finally learned to ride. Song Xing praised him for being so talented. Shen Yu was quick to master the basics of horse riding. Shen Yu hopes in his heart that when the commander see him riding a horse, that he will praise him again like he used to. Shen Yu shook the reins to prompt the horse to move. He approached the lord and showed off his new skill. He looked so pitiful, like a puppy. Shen Yu approached Jun Suanshao to show him his new tricks, but the commander only scolded Shen Yu and mocked him for trying too hard and making a fool of himself. He ordered Song Xing to take Shen Yu back to the carriage. Yet again, he turned his back on Shen Yu. This has been a common theme in this story, when Shen Yu would watch Jun Suanshao's back as he leaves. Shen Yu cannot hold back his tears as they freely fall down his beautiful face. He did not intend to make a fool of himself. He just wanted to get closer to Jun Suanshao. As Jun Suanshao approached the royal siblings, the emperor asked what happened between him and concubine Yin. Jun Suanshao explained that Shen Yu went out of his carriage without permission, and he simply ordered him to go back. Dairo did not want to hear more about Shen Yu, and told her brother to not worry. She directed her attention at Jun Suanshao and told him that she saw a snow fox. The piercing sound of an arrow slicing through the air is accompanied by distant, echoing explosions, resembling the detonation of bombs. The 3 royals are stunned. Their guards shout in that the attackers must be assassins. Dairo wonders if these vagabonds are here to rob them. Emperor Yi told her that there could be no robbers along Juxo Mountain as there are no trade routes worthy of stealing. Under Suan Shou's rule, there can be no bandits. It can only be the Huns. Shen Yu's carriage stood to the side, close to the place that the Huns attacked. Suan Shou quickly maneuvered his horse to get closer to Shen Yu's carriage. Unaware of what's going on, Shen Yu peered through the window and saw the commander giving orders to Song Qing. He ordered Song Qing to take Shen Yu to safety. Song Qing told Shen Yu to get inside as they are being attacked by Huns. Shen Yu continued to lean on the window as he tried to get a glimpse of the Lord. The carriage continued to move forward as the Huns tried to pursue them. A sharp turn made Shen Yu close his eyes. From the dense forest, he can hear someone calling for his title. It is the princess consort. Dai Ro frantically ran towards the carriage, shouting at Shen Yu to wait for her. She looked pitiful as she begged for help. Shen Yu tugged at Song Qing's robe and gestured for him to stop and save the princess consort. Song Qing told Shen Yu that he does not need to worry about the princess, but Shen Yu's kind heart cannot find him in himself to abandon the princess. If he were in a similar situation, he'd want someone to help him. Shen, you such a kind soul. Shen Yu successfully pulled the princess towards the carriage. The princess thanked Shen Yu for saving her in spite of all that she did at him, but they are far from safe. The Huns attacked the carriage from above, and Song Qing did his best to protect them from the Huns. Realizing the Song Qing is currently occupied, Dai Ro looked back at Shen Yu, grabbed him by the shoulder and pushed him off the carriage. This woman's evilness knows no bounds. She smiled in triumph at finally getting rid of the vamp who seduced her husband. Shen Yu can only ask himself, how could someone he saved betray him so easily? When the skirmish finally died down, Suan Shou stood tall in front of a kneeling Song Qing. He can't believe his ears. Shen Yu is missing. Suan Shou is angry at Song Qing's incompetence. He's failed to protect Shen Yu time and time again, that he now considers getting rid of him. Dai Ro ran towards the commander as she cried crocodile tears on his shoulder. She whimpered against him, expressing her fear that she could have died in the hands of the Huns and that she would never see him again. She urged him to not put the blame on Song Qing, as he did his best to protect her and concubine Yin. She explains that the Huns took Shen Yu. This does not make sense to Suan Shou. How could the Huns catch Shen Yu when he's inside the carriage? Yeah, why would the Huns only take Shen Yu when the princess of the Dajing kingdom is a better hostage? Dai Ro coughed from Suan Shou's harsh treatment and told him that Shen Yu must have fallen off a cliff. The emperor came to Dai Ro's rescue and told Suan Shou how pointless it is to vent his anger on his sister. He encouraged Suan Shou to make haste as Shen Yu is probably still alive. Suan Shou threw Dai Ro to the ground in anger. He approached a cliff hoping to catch a glimpse of Shen Yu. His subordinates cautioned him to be careful and volunteered to find the concubine Yin. Suan Shou thinks to himself that even if Shen Yu survives the fall, he may not survive the cold. Time is of the essence. They must find Shen Yu immediately. They formed a search party to look for Shen Yu. Suan Shou personally went to find him. The emperor had a better idea. He turned his back from the search party and went back to camp. Dai Ro sat in the carriage, assured that her plan had worked. When the vamp disappears, the Lord will give up his search and will direct all his attention at Dai Ro. The emperor approached his sister, knowing that she has been lying all this time. He asked her where Shen Yu has fallen off. She feigned ignorance and pointed at the opposite direction. The emperor realized that Dai Ro must have pushed Shen Yu. Instead of being cowed, the princess consort shot back that she can't allow Shen Yu to return and steal the commander away from her. She feels no remorse for shoving him off the cliff. If the vamp is gone, then everyone will be happy. The slap that made contact with her cheek took her by surprise. As she clutched her swollen cheek, she realized that it was her own brother. He has never laid a hand on her before. The emperor looked down at her with cold eyes and chastised her for almost ruining his plans. Dai Ro can't believe her eyes. What is with that vamp that made everyone crazy for him? She hopes that they find Shen Yu's corpse. The sun has set. The emperor went towards the bottom of the cliff in the direction that Dai Ro pointed at. His efforts were rewarded by the sight of concubine Yin, laying almost lifeless on the snow. Shen Yu dreams. As the horses ran wild, he was pushed off the carriage into the cliff. It is cold, but he survives and tries to get up. Suan Shou towered over him, telling him what an embarrassment he is. The commander turned the other way, harshly telling Shen Yu that he is not worthy to be his concubine. Shen Yu intended his hand to reach the lord's. He wanted to scream for him to come back, But a mute can only scream in his head. A hand clasped his hand. But instead of the commander, the person holding his hand is the emperor. The emperor thought that Shen Yu must have gained consciousness, but he was mistaken. He held Shen Yu in his arms, embracing him to share his body heat. In Shen Yu's unconscious mind, he wonders if it is the Lord who came to save him. The emperor rightfully guessed that Shen Yu must have mistaken him for Jun Suan Shao. He took his hand off Shen Yu's grasp. He laid him down to admire his beauty. It took him a while to warm Shen Yu up. He used his hand to touch the exposed parts of Shen Yu, his chest, his neck, his face, and finally his lips. When Shen Yu opened his eyes and in his daze seductively stared at him, the emperor blushed. He realized that he is being seduced. Jun Suan Shao really knows how to pick them. The emperor does not understand what draws him to Shen Yu. His heart thumps as he is overcome by an overwhelming feeling. What draws him to Shen Yu? He asks himself a second time. He leans forward, their lips almost touching. He has an answer now. He pays attention to Shen Yu because he will be useful. What exactly does he want from Shen Yu? At first I thought, he just wants to piss off Jun Suan Shao or maybe help his sister. There seemed to be more to plot twist in future. That's it for now. See you in the next video.